Welcome to the SRS Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron J. Babiar, and I'm the Training Director of Support Raising Solutions. Whether you're a new ministry worker or a veteran looking to increase your competence and confidence, Support Raising Solutions seeks to bless you in your quest to be a spiritually healthy, vision-driven, fully funded Great Commission worker. I'm joined today once again by Andrew Nobauer of CCO. Andrew has been a guest off and on and is someone that I think is particularly suited to have this conversation with me today about an attitude of gratitude. I say particularly suited because he is from Canada and they do Thanksgiving a little bit differently, yet similarly. and Andrew, first of all, for those of us that are uninitiated into your Canadian ways, tell us a little bit about how you do Thanksgiving, because I know that many of our listeners are from the U.S., not all of them, but in the U.S., typically in the third or fourth week of November, we have a holiday called Thanksgiving, and it's about being thankful. That's really what it's about. And I know Canada does something similar. When does yours usually fall?
Yeah, so ours is actually a month and a half earlier. Our Thanksgiving is generally the the second Monday of October.
Okay.
So this year, our Thanksgiving was actually Monday, October 14th.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, I would say we're generally pretty similar to our American friends to the South. Turkey dinner, take some time to be thankful, but ours is actually so much sooner because our harvest season is actually in October, just
Right.
because it's significantly cooler in Canada. So
Sure.
everything is kind of a little pushed up there.
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, it's always in October. So for me, it was funny, actually. I didn't realize American Thanksgiving was in November, probably until I was an adult. And I thought to myself, why are people saying it's Thanksgiving? I was watching TV or something. It's like, why are people saying that, Thanksgiving's in a week? So it's the middle of November. I have no idea what's going on right now. And I
Yeah.
finally understood why there was football like during the day on Thanksgiving Day. That was Thanksgiving. I just assumed that you guys had Thanksgiving at the same time as us. So
Yeah. Well, just gives you an excuse to cancel the rest of your appointments on the third or fourth Thursday in November every year to watch football, right?
yeah, gives me an excuse to watch some football and have some turkey.
There you go. Well, of course, our discussion today is having an attitude of gratitude, and I'm sure that you've been guilty of this. I know I have been guilty sometimes of approaching a holiday and just having the holiday as it arrives. It's
Yeah.
here. Oh my goodness, I need to do something. So, almost like birthday. Oh wow, it's somebody's birthday. I need to
I
get
better buy
cake.
that card
Oh
now.
yeah, anniversary. Is the flower store still open? It is after dinner time. Yeah, like there's some
Yeah.
things that you really need to think of in advance. And with Thanksgiving, of course, it's supposed to be cultivating an attitude of gratitude, and that really is so important in support raising. That can
It
go
really
with
is.
multiple different audiences, right? So
Yeah.
when you think of attitude of gratitude, let's start on the home front first of all, Andrew. How do you communicate that with your spouse and your kids when you're raising or have raised and are living off support? Where does gratitude come into that for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I've been very blessed. My wife has been so supportive of my call to work for
Hmm.
CCO over the years. Just on Friday, this past Friday, we're recording on a Monday, and I had an appointment that came up, and it was at the end of the day, but it was really important that I met with this individual, and but I hadn't really planned on it, and I told my wife, and I said, Katie, I'm sorry, honey, like I don't want to miss dinner, but I think I might miss dinner because I need to meet with this man, and she said, I know that this is an important meeting and I know like where you're called. And so go ahead. Like I know that you love our family and like I'm not worried about
Right.
that. I really did marry up. I am so blessed. My wife is just the most amazing woman, and so I try to really take the time. Like Katie's love language is words of affirmation, and
Okay.
so what I'll try to do is to be thankful to her for just kind of the challenges that we've had to have, or really that she's had to have because of my support raising with travel,
Yes.
sometimes missed meals or less time with the family. I mean, I do try to include my family in my support as much as I can, but there are things that unfortunately they just can't come to.
Hmm.
Is I'll try to just write little notes for her just to notice and remind her that I notice what her sacrifices are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a Facebook message that said, "Hey, I'm sorry I can't be there right now. I'm so appreciative of like what you're doing
Hmm.
at home with the kids. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
allowing me to do this and for being so supportive of me." Just
Yeah.
I'll try to pepper in notes here or there that kind of surprise her. And
Hmm.
then what I'll sometimes do actually when I go on a big trip is I'll send her flowers while I'm
Good.
away.
Good. Good. Now, of course, you're thanking her. You're fully funded, but Andrew, that's actually I think it's important that we as spouses, we like with my wife Marky, that I thank her. At least I used to do this when I was first getting fully funded, thanking her for just being in the process with me because that
Mm-hmm.
initial push of reaching full funding, that's hard. That's a hard season. You'll never
It
get me
is.
saying anything different than that. It's hard and it's appropriate and if not essential in the midst of that. And I'm saying this on the benefit for the benefit of those that are listening right now who are in that season, for you to stop now and then and look at your wife or look at your husband in the eye and say, "Hey, thank you. Thank you for being on this
Mm-hmm.
journey with me. Thank you for following the Lord's leading and being obedient with me. I don't take that for granted." And that's pretty important because if suddenly your spouse is just your coworker that's laboring and support raising with you, it loses some of its sweetness, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, you're actually reminding me now. When I first had my push to get fully funded, my wife, unfortunately, our policies have gone through a major overhaul, so this won't happen to any of our future stuff. But my wife was actually working full time in the office while I was support raising, and on her days off, um, she would she would come and join me in my appointments, and she'd already worked a full week. And so I was just so, yeah, just, and then noticing her in that.
Right, right, right. Now, what about your kids? Now, my kids are probably quite a bit older than yours, and I have some stories about bringing them into gratitude for support raising. It's different because on one hand our kids, well, they're our kids and I'm dad and,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a job, but bringing them into understanding that hey, we're not just occasionally praying for our supporters, but we're saying thank you for their partnership. We've found some different ways to do that over the years, but first of all, I know your kids are quite a bit younger than mine, but have you had an opportunity yet at their tender ages of getting them involved with that at all?
A little bit, yeah. So I have a 3 year old and a 1 year old. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I love when I get a chance to meet with other families because I'll bring my kids along, and it really just becomes a play date where I'm able to talk about support raising with my potential donors. But what I really try to do is every night with my daughter, we thank God for three things. We thank Jesus for three things. We ask Him for three things, and then we close out our day in a little prayer and just kind of cultivate that attitude of gratitude and reminding her, this is what I do for work. And I tell her, do you know what Papa does for work? And she's like, what? And I'm like, I tell people about Jesus. And then when I talk to her about supporters, I say, they help me tell people about Jesus,
Yeah.
just to kind of show her that like they're in this with me. I
Right.
mean, she's really young, and my 1 year old just kind of looks at me blankly, and then either bites me or crawls
Right.
away.
I hear words. I hear words.
Yeah,
Those sound
exactly,
good.
exactly. But it's like it's inculcating them, like really at the core of that whole idea of generosity, of that
Yes.
whole idea of gratefulness. So thanking God every day, and
Yes.
then as she's getting older and she sees, okay, Dad does something a little different than others. It's including her in my ministry.
Right.
Like I'm a
Exactly.
missionary family. I'm not
Exactly.
a missionary by myself.
Yeah. And as they get older, I think you're gonna have the opportunity to do some of the things which I have done. At the time I'm recording this, I still have two high schoolers that are in the house. I have two older sons that are college age. One's married, has been for a couple of years. But, in our process, when I first began raising support, they were all or almost all born. So they kind of grown up with that. But really trying to get them involved in, like, we do a thank you that we mail to people,
Mm,
and getting them involved with that. It's on their calendar. And in fact, that I noticed a slight sense of loss this year because I reorganized it a bit differently just due to everybody's schedules. And normally we have like a little gathering where we do something together. And we didn't do that quite that way this year. And they're all like, "Hey, when
right.
is this? When is this? When is this?" And I was like, wow. I might have swung and missed the fact that I didn't bring everybody together to help with this project this
Oh, that's too
year.
bad.
And yet I'm feeling good though. That's like, hey, that's great that they know this is typically time we stop and we say thank you. And
Mm,
they're involved with it. So that's like a practical thing. Like, we bake some stuff
well,
up and
what a
send our
blessing, hey?
supporters. Yeah. Yeah. But, I think this year, one thing that has been different is particularly because my baby, now our youngest is about a 6'4", 15-year-old. He's bigger than me. but
I think I met him, and I thought to myself, is he a giant?
yeah, yes is the answer. But I've really this year been very intentional about getting my family involved with prayer. Now, Marky and I have always prayed for our supporters, but we've had some supporters this year that have gone through some incredibly painful marital discord, without oversharing details. Cancer striking the children of
Mm,
some of our supporters. I mean, just
oof,
real hard,
that's hard.
gut
Yeah.
wrenching things. And, you know, crying with our kids and praying with our kids for our partners in ministry that they give all the time, but they pray for us. It's the least we can do is pray for them and lift them up, and really inviting our
Amen.
kids into that. Hey, raising, but more importantly, living off support. It is not just an ATM machine of cashing them checks.
Hmm.
There's a responsibility and joy we have in praying for, and sometimes showing gratitude towards those who partner with us. So I think in coming years, Andrew, you might have some opportunities to do something similar with your kids. Maybe a little less at 1 and 3, but yeah, give it a few years.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, getting them together for our we did our we always do a family Christmas card, and just getting my son, everyone, I take it as a win if I can get everyone looking at the camera.
Right. There you go. Right now, and you know what? Your
Yeah, that's
supporters don't even expect that much. They might hope for it,
oh,
but they
they
laugh
love
at
the
it.
photos of my family. They yeah, no, they love the photos of our family. We always kind of in our ministry update, it's 90% ministry, but I'll always at the bottom I'll have a little picture of the kids and say, they're David's doing this, Maria's doing this, and then
Right. Right.
it really is really exciting.
Yeah. If you're enjoying these podcasts and they're hitting on topics that you love, consider following Support Raising Solutions on social media for everyday biblical and practical support raising advice as you're in the process of raising your support. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/support raising solutions and on Twitter at support raising. Well, now, as you talk to your supporters, though, and you're thanking them, obviously, we're going to teach, and we do in the SRS boot camps. Again, for those that have never been to an SRS boot camp, it's arguably some of, if not the best, world-class training you can get on support raising. We highly encourage people to be a part of that, unless they're already getting
Mhm.
fantastic training from their own organization and getting fully funded. But one of the things that we do talk about is that you should always, 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 always say thank you to your supporters.
Indeed.
Not over the top, not in a way that seems canned and like not even real, but in every vision driven communication, such as a newsletter, it's so easy to say thank you. Thank you for your partnership in ministry. Thank you for how you've helped me change lives because we're doing this together for God's glory. Always say thank you. But
Yeah.
sometimes you can say thank you a little bit differently. I mentioned earlier that we typically do like a baked good item and send it out, but there's other things too. So what are some of the ways that we can say thank you before we close out our podcast today?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that my organization does, and that I always try to do around Christmas time, is I'll always give all of my supporters a phone call around Christmas, just to wish them a Merry Christmas and just to say thank you for their continued support. So they always know at Christmas time they're always going to get a phone call and a touch point with me because I just want to share with them my gratitude. So just scheduling in a time with real intentional gratitude
Yeah.
is so critical. It's a really exciting thing to do. And then another great thing that I try to do is I remind them that I'm praying for them.
Right.
So what I did last year is I set up a Google form, and I said, I'm taking a time of retreat upcoming, and I'd love to be praying for you and for your intentions. And if you don't even want to share like what your intentions are with me, I set up a Google form that's anonymous, and they could share, to their heart's content, and I would have no idea which one of my supporters it was. And I could pray for them. I could pray for their intentions by
Mm.
name. And so I did that last February, and it was a really just very beautiful. I printed off the sheets, and I remember just sitting down on a pew or a bench, and just saying,
Right.
for this, and then I would just sit with that intention, and then at that day I took a picture of where I was and where I was praying for them, and I just said, I prayed for you today, and I'm so thankful that you're
Right.
sharing that with me. And then the second thing that we could really do that's just really easy and really practical is in our ministry updates, in our prayer letters, is always write you, right? Not say I'm doing this, saying um, your support is making this possible. You're making
Yeah.
this possible. Thank you for your for your
Mm.
generosity
Hmm.
to me.
Yeah, thank you, occasional thank you cards, text, emails. I mean, just a phone call sometimes can make a big difference. And so, with it being
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving, at least in the U.S., almost Thanksgiving, I definitely want to just take this time to say, hey, make sure you're saying thank you, not just this week, but think through when it comes to your support. Are you thanking your spouse? Are you involving your kids in saying thank you to your supporters? And are you saying thank you to your supporters? An attitude of gratitude needs to carry us throughout the year, not just when an actual calendar date hits the calendar. So, anyway, Andrew. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on once again for this podcast and appreciate your thoughts. And God bless you, my friend. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the SRS podcast.
And God bless you, Aaron, and thanks for all that you're doing. I know I've been blessed, and I know my whole organization has been blessed by your yes to work for SRS and doing these podcasts. They've been amazingly helpful. So thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode. We would love to hear your ideas for future content. Please visit supportraisinSolutions.org/feedback to share your thoughts and questions. Also, wherever you download your podcast from, be sure to subscribe for future episodes and come back each week to gain more insight into the process of building and maintaining your personal support team.